There's going to be celebrations everywhere, Boston and New York and Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. This is a once-in-a-lifetime milestone that will not be happening again, ever.
Why is the 250th anniversary a good reason to plan a trip?
It's just an opportunity to get people to think about what's here, what's in America.
There's documents and artifacts that are being brought out of the vaults. Washington's personal copy of the Constitution with his handwritten notes. This may be the one and only time that we have a chance to see those. Now is the time to get to know some of our history.
People are talking about how this is going to be kind of the year of the road trip. Think about what interests you. Is it the roadside attractions? Is it the kitschy, quirky things? Or is it beautiful national parks?
Our history was shaped by everybody, not only the well-known founders that we learn about in history books, but women and families and Native Americans and African Americans and immigrants are all part of the story. Obviously, July 4th is the big day, the culmination of everything. You really need to start planning now.
It's a great excuse to go explore your country. If you need a reason to start checking things off your bucket list, this is such a good opportunity to do that. Picture yourself standing face to face with the Declaration of Independence, a document that birthed our country and changed the world. Or imagine you're on the harbor of one of America's first cities, watching impossibly tall ships converge on the horizon, sails billowing as an international armada glides into Boston Harbor, the very same waters where a revolution was born. I'm Angie Orth, and it's America's 250th birthday. From founding documents and other iconic relics of the Revolutionary War to lesser-known places where history was made scattered across the heartland, the entire country is opening its archives, dusting off forgotten stories, and inviting you to celebrate not just where we've been, but who we are. Whether you're drawn to the grand stages of history or the quirky roadside attractions that make this country what it is today, 2026 is your invitation to explore it all. The celebrations are happening everywhere. And in this episode, you'll learn where to find them all, from the best and biggest celebrations to the less crowded destinations and long forgotten stories that are America. Hey everybody, welcome back to Traveling with AAA. I'm your host, Angie Orth, and today I have two guests that I'm so excited are here because we have a big birthday party to talk about for 2026. First, I have Erin Gifford. She has written a guide called Explore America, 250 Places to Go in 2026. And I also have Barbara Noe Kennedy. And these ladies are both based in Virginia. They're both travel writers. They contribute to every magazine, every newspaper you know, and they are here to tell us all about how to celebrate America's 250th birthday. This is the semi-quincentennial, which is a whole mouthful. And I'm really glad that we're shortening it to call it America's 250th. Let's start just by talking about what this milestone is and why is the 250th anniversary a good reason to plan a trip?
It's a great time to go to kind of those Revolutionary era sites, go to the Independence Halls and the Washington Monuments of the world. But it's also such a great opportunity to go out and just see some of those lesser known places like, Wall Drug in South Dakota, go to the Alamo, go to Mount Rushmore, patriotic sites, and then kind of those fun kind of roadside attractions, scenic beauty attractions, like all the places that you've been thinking about. It's just a great time to get out and see America and everything that it has to offer.
And I would add to that, this is a once in a lifetime milestone that will not be happening again, ever. And there's going to be celebrations everywhere, certainly in the big cities, Boston and New York and Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., but I think everywhere, small towns, museums, battlefields. I would be remiss not to mention the National Archives, which has just undergone a $40 million renovation. So you have the Rotunda, where all of our founding documents are kept, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, that's still there. They're adding 2 new documents on permanent display, the Emancipation Proclamation and the 19th Amendment. So for the first time, we'll be able to see those, and I believe that's permanent. But on both sides of the Rotunda, you now have the state-of-the-art space. There's 9 galleries they're curated using AI. They've digitized everything. So you can go in and select what interests you, whether it's national parks or World War II or women's suffrage. You use this barcode and the documents will be curated to what you are interested in. And it's the coolest thing. I actually visited it last week. It opened on November 21st. And it's just amazing. They also have other displays there, the real life documents, and there's documents and artifacts that are being brought out of the vaults and personal collections for this special occasion. This may be the one and only time that we have a chance to see those. And for example, here in Washington, D.C., the National Archives has on display Washington's personal copy of the Constitution with his handwritten notes in the margins. And I'm not sure that's ever been brought out, and it's there for several months, and I'm not sure how long they're going to have it. So it's just things like that that are unique, and now is the time to get to know some of our history. They have a gallery of famous photographs, like Ansel Adams is on display now. They have a display of presidential gifts. For example, there's a crystal cowboy boots that was presented to Ronald Reagan. There's a room on patents. So you have the patent for Thomas Edison's light bulb with a sample across the way from the patent for the Barbie doll. So,
Wow.
this is all they're calling it's called the American story. And it's all about our American story over the last 250 years.
Let's get into some of those specifics, because the festivities are spanning the whole country, from the sites you would expect, like DC and Philadelphia, to San Francisco and Alaska and beyond. With the celebrations that are happening throughout 26, when do you think people should start planning?
Obviously, July 4th is the big day, the culmination of everything. Fireworks, big and small, everywhere. And there'll be parades and everything leading up to that. So, of course, that's when everything's going to be the most crowded. And so you really need to start planning now. But remember that there are a lot of smaller places that have celebrations, and there's stuff going on all year round. So it doesn't have to be July 4th. Come to Washington, D.C. for the cherry blossoms. And then, there's plenty of other stuff going on the side that'll be going on in museums and the National Archives.
Something else that I would encourage people to go and visit in DC that I visited maybe a month ago, and it's only been around for maybe a year or so. It's called the People's House. I don't know if you've been, Barbara, but it's the People's House.
Yeah.
It's right across the street from the White House. And it's this highly kind of immersive experience where you can go in, and they've got these digital portraits on the walls where you can speak to, you can't actually speak to them. They speak to you, really, like the housekeeper or the cook or different people who work in the White House, where you can learn about the different jobs and, things that go on the White House. They've got, a replica of the Resolute desk that you can sit at. And they just have a lot of really immersive experiences there, different exhibits and artifacts where, if you touch them, they will start talking to you and giving you some background on what it is. So I just thought it was a really cool way to, experience the White House.
Before we leave DC, I have another question for Barbara. You wrote about the history of the First Baptist Church in Williamsburg. Can you tell us about that?
This is really interesting history, because back in 1776, the population of Williamsburg was more than 52% African American. But we don't know much about the history because much of the history is oral versus written history. But back then, African Americans could not gather. It was illegal for them to gather, but they did anyway to worship, hidden away in coves and things like that. So they officially established a congregation in 1776, the First Baptist Church, which is alive and strong to this day. They finally built a building in the early 1800s, 1856. Then when Colonial Williamsburg was built, John D. Rockefeller, he wanted to maintain like this Anglican colonial look to Williamsburg. And even though the church was historic, it didn't fit that. And so they destroyed it and built a bus depot over it. They did give money to the congregation to build another church near the College of William and Mary that remains so vibrant today. And they have museum pieces inside. You can go in. I mean, just so much history, as you can imagine. Because so little was known about the African American story, because they were there in 1776 too. I mean, women were there. Native Americans were there. We need to know everybody's story. So archaeologists, beginning in 2020, started trying to find more information about that original church. And they did. They discovered artifacts. They discovered 62 intact tombs of people who no doubt are related to congregants of that church who still live in Williamsburg today. So they are actually rebuilding that church as a museum. And it will be dedicated in 2026 on what is also the 250th anniversary of their congregation.
If you need a reason to start checking things off your bucket list, this is such a good opportunity to do that. So let's talk about some of the events. And I know, Barbara, you wrote an article for Westways all about things to do and the great events. So let's talk about Philadelphia. They have the Wawa Welcome America Festival.
They're expanding their celebration to 2 weeks. It's one big party, 2 weeks of free concerts, block parties, night markets. They're handing out free hoagies.
Hey, love a free hoagie.
And then, of course, the culmination will be the July 4th fireworks, spectacular display. Right there, where it all above where it all happened 250 years ago. The Museum of the American Revolution has special exhibitions. There's one that's actually open now, and it'll be open through January 2027, and it's called The Declaration's Journey. And it looks at how the Declaration of Independence went on to influence and inspire independence around the world. A couple of other things going on. One thing I think is really cool is there's a Liberty Bell scavenger hunt that's taking place. This is across counties throughout Pennsylvania. And they have artist decorated fiberglass Liberty Bells that they'll be placing. And it'll be a great way to go out and visit other sites beyond Philadelphia and, snap a picture of that Liberty Bell. And then one other thing they're doing is called 52 Weeks of First. So every week throughout the year, they will be celebrating the anniversary of one first. These are neighborhood-focused celebrations. So like 1 week, it'll be the first balloon flight in America. That took place in 1793. There was the first professional basketball league that was established in Philadelphia in 1898. Some of them are just like really random. Like the first pencil with attached eraser was invented in 1858. So all that was right there in Philadelphia, and they'll be celebrating all of those innovations and everything that makes America great throughout the year.
Okay, so let's scooch over to Boston. That's another huge spot to celebrate this year. It's known as the Cradle of Liberty. What's a unique event that people should think about putting on their calendar?
One thing that I think is very unique and interesting is they are staging an opera. This is at the Emerson Colonial Theater, and it's called Daughter of the Regiment. And it tells the story of Deborah Sampson, who was a woman who she put on men's clothes and she went out and fought in the Revolutionary War. Massachusetts was center of a lot of activity. Lexington and Concord shot heard around the world. It will be a huge draw. The Concord Museum there has a special exhibit. Well, actually through the year, they'll have several different exhibits focused on the revolution and its history. There's one going on now through February 22nd called Transformed by Revolution. And then there's another one opening in March called Revolutionary Legacies. There's just all kinds of different creative, innovative things going on. And in the town of Haverhill, at the Museum of Printing, they are hosting it's an exhibition of broadsides that with the theme of shot heard around the world. And so I imagine that's going to be very creative and interesting to see.
And people are talking about how this is going to be kind of the year of the road trip. I feel like every year is kind of the year of the road trip, but I think 2026 especially, you're going to start in Boston, such a great patriotic spot. But then you can hop over to Salem. You can go to Springfield on the western side of the state. They've got the Dr. Seuss Museum. I mean, how American is that? It's like quintessential. Everybody knows Dr. Seuss. What a great opportunity. Head over to Cape Cod. there's just lots of different places that really, speak to American culture and history. And, you don't need to limit yourself just to Boston, especially when those bigger cities, the Bostons, the Philadelphia, the DC, even kind of Virginia's historic triangle are going to be so busy because everybody's going to want to go there. So take a few days, take a week, road trip across the state, across these different places, and really get a taste and a feel for all different parts of history.
That's a great way to think about it as you're planning for whatever it is you're going to do for the 250th. Like maybe go to one of these great events that we're going to talk about, but also add on a little extra trip to a lesser known place or something that maybe doesn't have an event, but has some kind of cool history that you're into. It's a great excuse to go explore your country. You're both based in Virginia, which means you are going to be surrounded by events. Is there anything you're looking forward to specifically in Virginia, DC area that you are just like, I'm doing it, it's on my calendar, it's a must do?
One thing I have my eye on is there's an exhibition in Richmond at the Virginia Museum of History and Culture called We the People. And it's all about immigrants who have shaped Virginia and the nation. There's stories there. Abe Dumar, he was a Syrian who immigrated to Norfolk. He's credited with inventing the waffle cone. So, who can live without the waffle cone? But then there's, they feature an Afghan artist, Sugra Husseini. She sought asylum after the Taliban triggered her for portraying empowered women. So there's really serious stuff too. And so I think that I've been wanting to get down to Richmond anyway. It's 2 hours from the DC area. And I think that could be the perfect excuse.
It's amazing to think about like how much, to your point, how much has happened in 250 years, civil rights, kind of space technology, even kind of the digital age that has arisen in the last 25 plus, more than that years. Louisiana Purchase, Lewis and Clark. I mean, just so many different facets of American history. It's really like incredible when you really dig into it. World War II, Civil War. Sorry, I could go on forever, but there's just so many different parts of history. It's really incredible.
So we've talked about sort of the usual suspects, the places that you would expect to celebrate America's 250th, Philly, DC, Boston. But I wanted to ask you, Erin, from your guide, what are some of those favorite sort of unexpected stops you think people should build into maybe a celebratory birthday trip for the US?
It really just depends on what your interests are. Like, for example, I mean, music, there's jazz museums, there's, you can go to Nashville, you can go to the Honky Tonk Highway. In Virginia, you can go and check out it's escaping me, the music trail kind of in Southwest Virginia. If that's of your interest, even Graceland. I mean, Elvis is such a part of American history. Even, where Prince lived up in Minneapolis. I think that's a great place to go if you're into music and you want to kind of explore the story of America. So you've got that. Roadside attractions. Roadside attractions are amazing. I mentioned the Jelly Belly factory, even Hershey's Chocolate World. I put that into my guide because, I mean, Hershey is American's iconic chocolate brand. Go and learn about the chocolate. I mean, it's a really fun experience. They've got this kind of, it's not a drive-through, but it's kind of a, you sit in this little cart and you see these cows singing, but you're learning about how chocolate is made and how Hershey became this great brand. And, one other one of my favorite towns, Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. I visited there with my kids when we were small, home of Punxsutawney Phil, America's most famous groundhog weather prognosticator. That's a part of our story, So there's just so many fun things to do, kind of anything you can think of. And it doesn't have to be the big ones. There's so many little small niche facets that are a part of our story that are just as fun.
Let this be the year of exploring the United States. I mean, one of my favorite places, Itasca State Park in Minnesota. That is the headwaters of the Mississippi River, where you can actually walk across the Mississippi River on stones. I mean, you could probably jump across it, and then you can follow along the Great River Road and follow and watch it as it grows bigger and bigger. I just think that's so cool, and it's beautiful. There's cabins there, loons, and the trees, and I mean, it's just the most beautiful setting.
I live near Shenandoah National Park, maybe an hour and a half, and there's some outrageous statistic. It's like 90% of visitors don't go on a hiking trail. They just stop at the overlook. But you're really just scratching the surface when you just, look at the mountains in the distance. Just take a short hike. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be hard. just go and explore, just go a little bit further, go 10 steps further and see the wildlife and see the trees and get up close and see something you didn't see before. So that's what I would kind of encourage people. If you're going to go out and explore natural beauty, just get out on an easy hiking trail and see what else is there. Get off the road, get away from the asphalt.
Let's talk about incorporating America's multicultural heritage. We mentioned it briefly, but I'm thinking about events like the drumming program in Alexandria or the Smithsonian Folklife Festival. Barbara, what do you know about those?
Yeah, this global drumming series sounds fascinating. It's taking place at the Athenaeum, which is a really cool museum. They are hosting a global drumming series with Tom Teasley, and he is a world-renowned percussionist, and he will be celebrating global rhythms that have shaped America's music. And every year, the Smithsonian puts on a wonderful folklife festival on the National Mall. And every year it's a different theme. So in 2026, the theme is Festival of Festivals. And basically, they're looking at how festivals have united and sparked conversations and celebrated the diversity of the United States. And normally, the Folklife Festival is just a short period of time. It's 5 days or something. But this time, they're expanding it from June 18th to July 12th. So we'll have more opportunity to go and see it.
I read about this international fleet of tall ships that's going to be visiting the East Coast. Where is that going to be and how can people catch it?
There is an international armada of tall ships and naval vessels, like those old fashioned one with the square rigs and very tall, that it's starting off in New Orleans, this whole fleet on May 28th. And it's going to make its way up the Atlantic seaboard. So it'll be stopping in Norfolk and Baltimore and New York. It'll be in New York City over the 4th of July, and then it'll end in Boston. But this comprises more than 10,000 sailors on board. And at each place where it stops, there'll be deck tours and all kinds of festivities, music, entertainment, food. And at each place, there is what they call a parade of sail, where all these ships will be parading in this majestic show. So there's the 5 main stops, but then they also have a lot of smaller harbor events, like here in Alexandria. It'll split off. It'll be smaller, but you can still get a taste of the ships if you don't live exactly near one of those or visit one of those other 5 places. So like Alexandria and Richmond and Virginia Beach and many other places, smaller places, will have a taste of it as well.
You mentioned New York, that these ships will be in New York City on the 4th of July. First of all, that would be incredible to see. I've seen the fireworks there on Independence Day. Add in the ships and probably the extra 45 minutes of fireworks because it's America's 250th. But I don't want to leave New York out because New York was a big, big player in the revolution. So is there anything else special going on there that people should look out for?
New York City, they are creating a I Love New York path that features a list of 250th events and, guided tours and living history and reenactments. Along the way is the Fraunces Tavern Museum. And this is where George Washington gave his farewell speech to his officers at the end of the Revolutionary War in, 1781. But anyway, they have a whole slate of exhibits and lectures and musical performances that'll be going on throughout the year. And then the Metropolitan Museum of Art, they have a performance of the national anthems by composer David Lang. And they also have an Art of the Revolution panel that's on January 29th. Just check out their listing because there's all kinds of unique, interesting things going on in what I would consider to be an unexpected place that's celebrating the 250th in the Lake Champlain area. So they have a heritage trail that's connecting battle sites and museums and interpretive activities. So yeah, tons of stuff going on.
Well, let's go to the other coast because I don't want to leave out California and Arizona. Tell us about the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail. What's going on with that this year?
I am originally from California. And so all of my history growing up was all about the missions and the Miwok Indians. At the same time that the signers of the Declaration were signing the Declaration of Independence, there was a Spanish expedition that had made its way from Arizona to San Francisco, and they arrived in San Francisco on June 27th. And so this year, 2026, there will be a major commemoration of this at the Presidio. But there will be events all along the Juan Bautista de Anza Trail. It's a historic trail. It's a historic trail that goes from Arizona through California, and there will be events throughout the year all along the way. So it wasn't all happening on the East Coast.
So let me ask you this, Erin. Are there any sites that are dedicated to writers and artists and inventors or civil rights activists, people that were kind of making things happen behind the scenes, let's say? Are there any attractions you recommend people check out?
I feel like I'm going to jump back to the East Coast again, though, because there are a lot on the East Coast. The Edgar Allan Poe Museum in Richmond. You've got the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh. I mean, the founder of the pop art movement, amazing. You've got Frank Lloyd Wright, amazing architect forever, with his works in Falling Water in Pennsylvania. But of course, he's also got Taliesin in Wisconsin, Taliesin West out in Arizona. So that's an opportunity for West Coasters to, brush up on kind of that kind of art. So you've got these community activists. You've got the National Civil Rights Museum in Tennessee. You've got the legacy sites in Alabama. So great opportunity just to learn about kind of everyday people that were fighting for civil and social rights. So you've got Little Rock Central High School, where the kids, the high school integration down there. So just so many different places where just kind of everyday people made history. Everyday people, as well as kind of inventors and creators and writers and artists, but, they were kind of everyday people too. And there's places like this kind of all across the country, even kind of Missouri. You've got the Walt Disney Hometown Museum, Marceline. I might be saying that wrong. Could be Marceline. Marceline, Missouri, was home of Walt Disney. So there's this great kind of hometown museum where, of course, everyone knows about Magic Kingdom and Disneyland, but you can go and you can learn about this everyday guy that started Walt Disney World and Disneyland. So really kind of, it can be surprising kind of even in your backyard. For example, for us, Barbara and I live in Northern Virginia, but in Winchester, Virginia, which is not even that far from us, west, there's the Patsy Cline House. She was a famous country musician, and she was born just an hour west of DC. So like I said, kind of even in your backyard, there's all these birthplaces and museums and galleries that are focused and dedicated to people who grew up there.
My last question is, what do you hope that travelers get out of participating in this 250th anniversary celebration year of fireworks and fun and museums? Like, what do you hope people take from it?
I just hope it gives people the opportunity and the interest in exploring the United States, because I always think, kind of when I go to national parks, there are so many visitors from abroad who visit our national parks. And I'm always so surprised by how few Americans are, going to the Grand Canyon and are going to Saguaro National Park and going to these amazing places. And I feel like, so many of my friends and colleagues are, talking about going to Europe and going abroad, and you got to think, well, there's just so many places, and kind of in doing this research to identify, 250 places I thought that you should go. It's just really amazing how in every corner there's really cool, beautiful places, really cool places. Even the place I forgot about was the last Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon. I thought I got to get out there sometime. I mean, I know it's just a Blockbuster video store, but even that is kind of a really fun place to go. And it's Crater Lake National Park is probably only an hour or two from the Blockbuster. So you could kind of pair that into a road trip and like I said, just kind of, think about what interests you. Is it the roadside attractions? Is it the kitschy, quirky things like the Blockbuster? Is it beautiful national parks like Crater Lake? I love that it's just an opportunity to get people to think about what's here, what's in America. And, maybe just getting out and road tripping and seeing these things that either they hadn't thought about or that they had thought about, but they'd gone abroad the last few summers. And maybe this will be the summer when they decide to really just see what's here and take advantage of everything that's here.
Barbara, what about you?
For me, I think it's always a reminder that our history was shaped by everybody, not only the well-known founders that we learn about in history books, but women and families and Native Americans and African Americans and immigrants are all part of the story. And I'm happy to see in my research, I've seen that a lot of sites are highlighting this fuller story. In fact, I just got something today from Williamsburg that it looks like the Colonial Triangle area, they're focusing on women's stories, which I think is fantastic. So I hope travelers keep an eye out for these stories as well and not just stick to the mainstream stories, because
I agree.
they all were there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great year to dive in and learn maybe more than we learned in school. We're getting a little older as a nation and, coming into our own, because 250 is not old in the grand scheme of the nations that we're, shoulder to shoulder with out here. Like we're a baby, but it's nice to finally say, 250, we're getting there. Look at us. If you're ready to ring in 250 years of America, but your itinerary still needs a little fine tuning, then don't miss next week's episode. Erin and Barbara will be back to share their top 5 America 250 destinations for every type of traveler. Whether you're a history buff, a nature fanatic, or a parent looking for the perfect patriotic family vacation, we've got you covered. If you want to learn more about celebrating America's 250th birthday, then be sure to check out AAA.com/America250. Erin Gifford and Barbara Noe Kennedy, thank you for joining us. And thank you to our listeners for being with us. If you're planning a trip, be sure to connect with a AAA travel advisor. Check out AAA.com/travel or visit your local branch. This podcast is a production of Auto Club Enterprises. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a review. I'm Angie Orth. Thank you for traveling with AAA.